Hello, welcome to Borrow My Belief, podcast that I designed to showcase people like Joni, who we've got today, who are following their heart, their dreams. Joni's quite entrepreneurial, I would say, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say, Joni. So, welcome.
Oh, welcome. Thank you for inviting me on, Joe. This is very exciting for me. Yeah. So, what would you like to know about me? So, I have a tea company called Wild Women Tea. So, I do tea for women's hormones, which is really quite special to me. So, I always suffered from hormonal problems through growing up. And Wild Women was born, I don't know, 8 years ago. And then I launched it over lockdown. So yeah, and I've been blending tea, I'll say, for like 15 years.
Wow.
Maybe longer, I'll be honest. And I got into tea blending through Cox and Bologna. So I used to have a tea room called Cox and Bologna, and it was in Bristol. And we had it for 10 years, did it with my best friend Amy. And we didn't like the teas out there, so we decided to start blending our own teas to go with the afternoon tea, and that's how I started. It came together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We've talked quite a lot over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And I've got to know how entrepreneurial you are. I've got to understand that you do follow your heart and you do lots of things, and you're quite a daring person, I would say, as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I've just done is that I've always got taught by my father to follow your dreams, and life's too short not to. And by my mum as well, that you're going to work for the rest of your life, like for quite a long period. Why do something you don't like doing?
Yeah.
So I've never done a job that I didn't like, and the day I decide that I don't like it, that's the day I stop, basically, or I find something else to replace it. But I've never really worked for anyone. So I've worked for the BBC. When I was working TV and film, that was different, but I was freelancer as well. So that's like whatever job, what set job I have, that 6 months or whatever. But so I've always worked for myself, even from a young age,
Yeah.
teenager.
And that's because your parents kind of led you down that road.
Yeah, and I think that's because of being dyslexic. So my parents just growing up in Portugal, it was really, I saw how big the world could be and how you can do different things with your life. There's different lifestyles you can have. So I was really understood that from a really young age. There wasn't really one way suits or sort of thing.
Yeah.
And because so I really understood that. And my parents always, with me and my brother, is always like, look, just do what you're good at or what you enjoy doing.
That's rare.
So yeah. Do you think, yeah, I suppose it is rare actually. I haven't really thought about it in that way. I just thought it was quite sort of normal. But I think because of that, I became very ambitious and very sort of career minded. But I did have a lot of things. One thing that used to stop me from going really far with my entrepreneur and stuff is my self-doubt.
Yeah.
And self-doubt is such a handicap, I think, for anyone, because it stops you from jumping up a step, it stops you from moving forward. So even though I've always been quite experimental and like tried doing new things, sometimes I only get so far, and then my self-doubt will kick in.
That's really interesting, Joni, because I mean, I don't know how long I've known you. I think I met you about 4 months
Yeah.
ago. And I would say that you're quite daring. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, how do you like you just move through fear and you just get on with it? And then to hear you say that you have self-doubt,
Yeah,
even, yeah.
well, I got taught from a young age to never just move forward.
Yeah.
So to me, it's very easy to live in the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's quite normal for me to always challenge myself. It's very normal for me to break the. So I can easily break. Like I always will put myself out there.
Yeah.
But I always will put myself in those situations where I have to learn and develop and move forward. So I'm quite used to being in that uncomfortable stage. I actually feel quite okay, but it's when I start to feel comfortable, that's when self-doubt
really
comes into play. So most people like to feel
it's the other way around. Yeah, wow. This is different. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So for me, it's to learn to go with the flow more and be more comfortable with the flow instead of trying to challenge it all the time.
Wow.
Wow. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm over challenging it.
I'm just checking. It says set up professional audio in audio settings. Oh wow. I hope this is recorded. I hope we don't have to do it twice. Let's just keep rolling.
So for me it's that. So but self-doubt came, I only started to work with my self-doubt. I always thought by like basically dealing with my challenges front faced on, like doing radio and journalism, like doing all the stuff that I've done, I would like, then the self-doubt would go. That makes sense because I've achieved it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a tick. So I've achieved it. I've proved that person wrong. But once you stop realizing you've achieved everything and the self-doubt is still there, you realize then it's actually something really deep and it's to do with such stuff that's happened, like it's trauma. So that, and all that for me comes down to, not most people get that from their parents. I got all mine from like school, from teachers, from society, for being different. So being my true self from the day go actually caused me a lot of damage because the world wasn't able to deal with that.
No, I get that. I'm just now my brain going like, I hope this is recorded. So I'm thinking about all these successful people. And I've heard people say that even really successful people, let's talk about money, wealthy people have hang-ups and they might have like loads of money and they're scared of losing the money and all these different things. And what you've just said really ties in with that, I think, because it's not the measure of the success on the outside, it's the measure of the inside. It's the measure of the
success inside,
the terrain with inside. So no matter how much I think you're saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is no matter how much you've achieved, you've still had all this stuff going on the inside, and none of that achievement has rectified that. So therefore, I think you have at one time then went and looked inside, didn't you? And went and did something different.
So that's when, because I grew up around just outside Glastonbury, so I've always been around spiritualists, and I used to go to church on my own when I was young, like when I used to live in Portugal. So I grew up as a Catholic, Irish Catholic, but my parents weren't, I used to love going to church on a Sunday, but my parents wouldn't say you have to be Catholic. Do you know what I mean? They weren't strict. So, but I used to be, like me being a rebel, teenagers, I decided to get confirmed into the Protestant church. Not to annoy my parents, because my parents didn't care. But what it was so they would get some trauma as you like to break the rules, don't you, with your parents? Like, they're too easy. so they'll get hang up by my aunts and uncles, be on their case, and that was mine. So I've always been into religion and spirituality from a young age. And I've always like looked into different religions like Buddhism, Catholic, Protestant, what's the difference between them. This is when I was young, in my teens. And then like as I got into my late teens, because I lived near Glastonbury, only down the road, I got into what spirituality was and all that. So I had that from such a young age. And as I realized that I wasn't religious, I was more spiritual than religion. And then as I've grown, and then when I hit my 20s, something happened. I got frightened in a way, and then I decided to sort of ignore that side of me. And I ignored that side of me for like I think a decade. I think that's it sort of started because I think that's because I was about to get married, but have children. Do you know what I mean? It was just too much, you know, couldn't really. And I did a lot of drugs when I was young, so I don't think that helped. But so basically I just this decade where I just sort of ignored that side of myself, that growth side of myself. I went more into the 3D world for a bit. And then I don't know, 8 years ago, I started going back into my spiritual self again, into my intuition, into who I was. And then I started to grow that way again as an adult. So it was a different experience from a child going through it.
So combining that with, because we talked about how you very entrepreneurial, you've never had a normal job, but that doesn't sound like that satisfied you fully.
No.
And then, because some people might think that would be it, you know, and then you bring in your spiritual side. So the combination of the two, what does that mean for you?
For me now, it's like an onion. So you've got different layers. I think when I was young, I didn't really understand it, and also I didn't have the people around me who could talk me through it, so I was working it out myself. So it's a big difference. You didn't have YouTube when I was young, you didn't have podcasts, you didn't have that, you know, community that you can grab onto now. So it's a different process. So I don't think I really had that understanding what I was learning about myself, if that makes sense. But now I didn't have any mentors at the time to sort of help that side of me. And I think now, as the other side, now as a mum and as me on my own and stuff, it means something completely different. It's me wanting to do it so I can be a better mum, I can be a better wife, I can be a better person to myself, I can be a better sister, brother, like sister to my brothers, a better daughter to my mum. And I think my dad passing had a lot to do with me or another level of the connection again. So now I'm just, and then I retrained as well as into an NLP coach. And I did have I had two breakdowns I had a breakdown in my 30s, two breakdowns in my 30s, like proper breakdowns. And people think when you go through a breakdown, you can get over it in 6 months. No, you don't get over it in 6 months. You get over it. So I think it's like my dark souls sort of, you know, my shadows like being like, oh, you're going the wrong direction. You've been ignoring us too much. So
let's talk about that. Because so it sounds like you went on a journey looking more to fulfill yourself. You were doing things against society, doing things your own way, but you decided to go on a journey to discover who you are inside. And like you said, in service, it sounds like you were very much, I want to be more of service now. Because I hear that a lot when people, this podcast is all about people following the truth. And I hear a lot that people want, when they do that, it's like they're in service.
Yeah, I think I've always been in service. I worked in catering, so it was making people have a beautiful experience. So, and I think working in TV and film as well was sort of in service because it's entertainment, so you're giving that. And I think I've always been in service. And when I was younger, teenager, I was working nursing homes, and like I've always been a sort of that sort of level.
This is a deeper service.
This is a deeper service. This is a service to helping people. So for me with Wild Women now, it's been on a huge journey. It's been massive, the journey of Wild Women, where it's been up and down.
This is peppermint tea.
So this is the lazy days tea.
I need a little bit more.
It's the lazy days tea.
I just want to go back to when you said they had the breakdowns. Were they before you started to go back to your spirituality? Were they what brought you on track?
Yes.
Because I've had what you could call a breakdown, and I would say that brought me on track.
Yes, that's what brought me back in track, basically. So the first was when I had Cox and Bologna. We had 15 staff. We were doing 300 covers in a weekend. I had 2 babies. I was working with, we had a manager, but the manager wasn't really doing the job properly, so we'd have to, whatever, me or Amy would have to be in anyway. So I just didn't have any time off at all, really. And I just really was unhappy at how I felt like I wasn't able to give my children what they wanted. That my business was all to do about being in service for my staff and not for myself. And it became very sort of HR based and it was quite it just became too. And with all that, and I had 2 young kids as well, I just didn't have the toolkit to be the mum I wanted to be, and being a business owner. I just didn't have the right toolkit at the time. And I think also because I didn't have maternity, with both of my children only had 6 weeks each. And I think that did a lot of damage to me. Because I wasn't able to breathe and have that beautiful experience that I wanted, because they had to come to work with me and stuff. So that, I think the layers of that just was too much. And it was just, in the end, I really wanted to get rid of it, and I should have got rid of it a couple of years earlier than we did. And the breakdown was the start of me going, right, that's enough. And then starting to look in, I started meditating. The doctors wanted to, go put you on medication, and I was not having any of that. So I was like, no, meditation. And that's when Wild Women was born.
Right, okay.
So Wild Women came out of the first breakdown, basically, because my hormones were all over the place as well. I wasn't getting enough sleep, and the women that we were getting into the tea room, all had, oh, I've got this, I've got that, and breastfeeding. So breastfeeding tea was designed to do. So we, our teas were all tested on hundreds of women every weekend.
And what you put in the teas are
so let's say the Cup Sunshine, if you have me the box there. So the Cup Sunshine, this is my menopause tea, which was created before everyone started talking about menopause. It was created because of my mum, actually. When I was a teenager, my hormones were overplayed. My mum was going through her perimenopause, menopause. She had a hysterectomy, so she had quite a hard time. So when I created this, I was thinking about her. So it's got sage in it, which is one of the most important ingredients, but I don't just put any type of sage in. Sorry, I'll come back. The sage here is proper leaf sage, sort of thing. And that's, I don't really cut it up or anything.
I'm smelling the sage in the Abbey.
Glastonbury. So, and then I put like honeybush, sage, orange peel, carrots to make it all taste really nice. And then but the important ingredient in this one really is the sage, and then the honeybush as well. So if somebody decided they wanted that, we'll put a link in the so you go to Wild Women Tea.
I'll put a link in the description. But how often should they drink it?
Every day. So
like once a day.
They can drink it. So this is the morning tea. And this is the night tea, which is Fly Me to the Moon. In that box. But you should drink it every day. So I always say you need to drink it 28 days, basically.
And what does the nighttime tea have in it?
That's a sleep tea.
Right, okay.
So it helps you sleep. That's like today. That's one of our best sellers.
I think I might be getting some of this, by the way. We're selling it where I live at the moment.
So I create 13 teas altogether and 6 boxes. So that's that one.
So I've been thinking about blending your teas with my cacao.
So we need to talk about that.
Yeah, we will.
So this is my first period tea, which is Everything's Rosy, and it was actually created because of me. was behind the bar, and because we got this tea bar.
Yeah.
And basically my periods were just really bad that week, and Amy was like, well, let's just create a tea for you. So we did it, and it's got raspberry leaf, which is really important for women. I think every woman should have raspberry leaf in their cupboards. And then we put extra fruit and berries in it.
You can hear your enthusiasm. Where did you learn about all this?
It's just herbs. It's just medicine, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a trained chef, so I went to catering college. My mum's a chef, so I come from a background of chefs, and so I worked in restaurants and kitchens my whole. So to me, and I'm because it's cocktail making as well. To me, it's just like
it's second nature.
It's second nature. When people go, "How do you learn this?" And I was like, "It's just second."
So out of your breakdown came your breakthrough, really?
Yeah, it came my breakthrough. But then my beliefs, and then I created the website, and then it sat in the dungeon for a little bit, as I used to call it.
Sat in the dungeon. Well, it was
like
in the creative space.
Down in the tea room we had the dungeon, which was where the office was and stuff. And then basically just playing around, because it took really, it was quite a long time in the making, and then 6 months before lockdown we sold Cox and Bologna, and then lockdown happened. We sort of mini launched it, and then lockdown happened, and then I spent the whole lockdown just building the website and stuff like that. And then we launched it, and it did really well. And then I got an investor, which was my brother. But that worked really well for lockdown, and it went really well. But I wasn't with the right people.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't with the right people,
it wasn't in alignment.
It wasn't in alignment. And because of that, I had another breakdown.
So let's talk about this in alignment, because I just want more tea, but let's talk about this in alignment, because I'm working with my clients at the moment.
Yeah.
And some of them are entrepreneurial. And I'm also part of an affiliate group where people are launching digital businesses. And what I'm noticing is, if people can do,
it's very easy to
do, but if it's not in alignment, it's either not taking off, or they're very unhappy. It's always one of. So I've met people, because I've been in this entrepreneurial space for a while now. So I've met people who, and it's not easy, by the way.
No, it's partly,
it's fulfilling.
It's not. Being an entrepreneur, you have to do self-development.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have to.
It's not going to work otherwise.
It's not going to work. Yeah. An entrepreneur, it's not for everyone.
Business is you. That's why it's an expression of you. So that's what I'm saying about alignment. So I've been in this space for a while now, and I've watched people who are there just for the money, and then they either can't make the money, or they make all the money and they create a prison for themselves, and they feel like they just want a normal job because they created another job, and it's not their passion. Or I meet people who are totally in alignment. It's really tough for them, but they'll keep going and going, and then they'll make a success because their why was so strong. And it sounds like whenever those two breakdowns that you've had have been when you've not been in alignment, or you've not been on your path for the right reason. That's what happened with me too. So with me, I was on my path. I was doing great, but there's cycles in life. And I wasn't listening to the little nudges that were saying, this cycle's over, Joanne. And I kind of knew it inside, but I was too scared to move on to the next thing. And I've done that twice. But I've not done it to the point twice that I would have a breakdown. But the first time, it was a mess.
It was a mess. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think because I don't like letting people down. Yeah. I'm a bit of a people pleaser as well. And I think that was my way of surviving in the real world, is about being a people pleaser. So I can sort of, what's those lizards that change sort of,
is it gecko?
They can change their shade or color. What do you call
camouflage?
Camouflage.
Yeah.
So I like mask. Yes, it's mask. So I think a lot of my life I did quite a bit of that to better fit into the situation that I was in. So I'm very good at reading the room, like, and be like making, because being severely dyslexic, you have to mask if you're in the real world. So it's like, you know, somehow I ended up being like a script secretary, do you know what I mean, for the BBC on a few shows. It's like, you think, part of my other do you know what I mean, you think, how did someone do that?
They're dyslexic. Some of the most some of the brightest people I know are dyslexic, because you have to be, and your mind has to work, doesn't it?
So you that's what I mean. So you learn to sort of to mold yourself a little bit, so you can do it.
A lot of people do that.
They do though,
but when you're in alignment, so I've noticed that in life, I think one of two things kind of happen eventually, because everything's energy. Either you end up malfunctioning, or something happens in your life that makes it come crashing down, doesn't it? And then it brings you right back to where you brings
you back to the start where you're meant to be.
It's like everything's dying and everything's gone and everything's collapsed.
I think when you're in alignment, you have to be in alignment with yourself, but also you have to situate your place where you are needs to be in alignment as well. So you need to be around the right people. You need to have the right support network around you. But you need to understand who you are, really need to understand who you are, to have that around you. And
it's a bit of a scary time, isn't it? When I've been through that more than once, and it's, who am I? Actually, who am I? I mean, I don't do so much the people pleasing. Actually,
no, that's what I've just stopped doing that. This like past couple of years, and it feels really good. But it's really weird how your monkey brain sometimes will basically bring you back into an old habit for a little bit. And then you find yourself, it's like, oh, I've just gone back into one of those old habits. So I need to like
and you become more aware, don't you?
Really aware.
And it's like you said, I mean, it goes across every part of your life, but with entrepreneurship, it seems your business seems to take off, I mean, and do better the more you are authentically. This is what I'm discovering. The more I find it's more of an undoing. For me, my entrepreneurial my entrepreneurial journey has been more of a undoing than a doing. So I'm finding that the more I'm being, the less I do, but I still do. But the more time I take to contemplate and get to know me. I mean, it all sounds really backwards to what we thought. The more I get to know me, the more I unravel.
It's when I found out my human design that really freaked me out. But I told you about it, didn't I? I was like, what's it again? Protect you're a projector, and it's like you don't do anything. So I'm like, what?
So if anybody doesn't know what human design is, it's astrology, and it's really worth having a look.
It is worth
even if you're skeptical, just search up human design. It's freakily right. And there's sites you can put in your birthday, and it'll give you lots of stuff. But that's what I'm finding, that so in recent times, because I'm really, really spiritual, and I resisted putting that out publicly. And in recent times, I've started to reveal more and more of that side to me. And it's scary, but people are magnetized to me, drawn to me, and things have started to happen. This thing that I've been afraid to do for 4 years, finally stepping into it, and life's going great. And I think that's the same for most people, isn't it?
It is. It's actually just taking down the curtain. And it's taking the mask off and taking down the curtain and not thinking about it too much, and just going with your follow your intuition. And
even when it doesn't make sense.
And also keep your monkey brain you can't control your monkey brain. A lot of people think they can, or they think they should ignore it, but by ignoring it or
It
trying to
gets
control
worse.
it gets worse. But what you do is you ask your monkey brain to have a relationship with your intuition.
Yeah.
And then your intuition will, and it's really learning the difference first, and then learning how, then getting them to have a relationship. And
so your brain's working
with your intuition,
yeah.
and then it goes into flow a bit more. And then also your monkey brain quite likes a little plan. So if it's going, so give it a plan. Like, don't try to ignore it. Don't try to tell it off. Just go, what would you want?
Well, the first thing is becoming aware that
you
are not, the first thing is becoming aware you are not your thoughts.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, can you work for me? Can you help me become a success? Can you show me when I'm sabotaging myself? Things like that. Yeah. And it's really interesting because I've had some clients recently who through themselves, just through their own self-discovery, they've decided to challenge themselves into certain situations, and they've been, I think it's fair to say, they've been almost petrified to do certain things, and then they've gone off and done them, and it's every single one of them, it's involved speaking to somebody else and something that they're really scared to say and bring up, and every single one of them, they've said, oh, they were fine. Everything was fine. Once I spoke about it, everybody was fine.
Well, it's quite interesting. Your monkey brain likes to keep you safe, but it keeps you in. It's the computer program. What was made when you were a child to keep you safe. So those programs were there. So you've got your monkey brain, you've got your intuition, then you've got the program, which is the computer, and then the computer was written a very long time ago. You just need to rewrite that, but sometimes you can't rewrite it, so you need to come to some sort of way how you can manage it. So I think it's like with me, with my self-doubt, I think it's so rooted in me that at the moment I'm in trying to get to the root and take the root out.
It's usually an emotion.
It's an emotion. But because I've gone through so many layers of those emotions at root, so now what I'm doing is something a bit different, where I'm trying to go, okay, well, let's come to some sort of agreement. How we can
what a good idea.
Until we can get to that root.
Do
you know what I mean? So it's sort of learning to have a relationship with yourself in a different way. So like I see it as more like 3D. Like you're like a 3D sort of crystal star bot, stars. you know what I'm on about, like like a star that's sort of like that, but it's got 3D levels of it. So I feel like that sometimes that's our soul, and it's that complicated.
Is that not? I came across an Egyptian symbol recently called a Merkaba.
Oh, is it? I have no idea what
have a look that up. The Egyptian symbol, the Merkaba.
Okay, so it is a thing.
Like your intuition knew what it was doing.
So it's sort of, it's helping is to connect to all those sides, because if you look at a child, the child's already connected. But as adults, we sort of damage that connection, the society, the world. Do you know what I mean? And then, as you say, we've got to undo it.
To come back to the original. And it is so tight. Some people will be listening to this who aren't entrepreneurs, but it's so tied in with living your dreams. So even if it's not entrepreneurship, even if somebody wants to run a 5K or somebody wants to visit a country they've never visited, and it's a dream and it's on their list and it's just not quite happened, my experience is, in order to step into your dreams, it's that journey.
It's a process.
It's about changing your habits, and it's a process.
And enjoying the process, not trying to rush the process.
That's true. And also because establishing I wrote about this in my book, actually, establishing a really deep relationship with yourself, because we can enjoy the process, we can have grace for ourselves, because what starts to happen is all this unconscious stuff comes to the consciousness, and then you, oh my gosh, have I behaved like that? Oh my gosh, is that me? But it's like building that really deep relationship with yourself, isn't it? And loving yourself through it. And it's, I mean, you spend your life with you. You
Yeah.
are your number one relationship. And I think it's fair to say that most people have been taught how to hate themselves, really. And it's about learning how to like embrace yourself. You're always with you.
Yeah, it's really weird, but society sort of like it sort of needs to change quite a lot. Is we judge ourselves too much. If you find yourself judging other people, that's how you judge yourself.
Yeah,
because otherwise, if you those judgments wouldn't come up.
Yeah.
So that's a sign of work that you need to do.
Yeah.
And really, it's coming to the point where judging is actually something you have to let go of to also move on. So it's working with all these areas.
That's a really good point. Yeah. So if you find yourself judging someone else, it's usually an unconscious part of yourself that you're pushing away. Yeah. That's another conversation.
It is. Yeah, it is. So it's sort of understanding all those layers of yourself. But with being an entrepreneur, it forces you, because your business will only get to a certain success.
Yes.
And then it will crash. So you could make it to a millionaire, or you can make it to like all the way to the top.
Well, I know millionaires. I know millionaires who are wanting to go to the next level. Yeah. And what really surprised me, one of them's coming on this podcast actually. What really surprised me when I listened to him was, at the time, it doesn't surprise me anymore, was he wants to go to the next level, and he's kind of battling with all the same things that I'm battling with.
Doesn't matter what level you're at. Like, I've had different businesses at different levels, and if you don't deal with those issues, then they're just going to come up. Doesn't matter what level you're at. And
it's a bit like a relationship.
It is. It's a relationship with all around, basically. So for me to make Wild Woman a success. And
so what's the next stage for Wild Woman? Like, we're going to put a link in this
so I've got loads of exciting things happening for Wild Woman. I'm quite excited about now. I feel aligned properly with it. It's I do feel like I've gone back to square one of it, which has been quite cool. So I'm going to be adding meditations to the boxes.
Oh wow!
So for the because last year I did a lot of womb healing meditations and stuff. I'm for a long time. I'm a hypnotherapist, so I've created these hypno meditations. I like to call them meditations, really, because I think it's more better.
So say for example, like to the moon, if I bought that, will there be some kind of QR code and then I can link into a meditation?
So basically you get sent the
link, so
link,
into it. So at the moment I have Blue Lotus tea now.
I've been drinking that,
and I'm thinking about switching and giving this one a go.
The other sleep one is Lavender Dreams. So Lavender Dreams was,
I love lavender,
part of Everything Rosy as well. So I used to suffer from quite a lot of anxiety on and off my life, but it was all connected to when I was young. I had no idea it was connected to my hormones, to my period. I wish someone told me that.
I was the same with menopause, right? So perimenopause, I didn't have a clue. I went through all these brain fog, all sorts, and it wasn't until I went to work for a company who educated everybody on menopause and perimenopause, and I watched this whole education and went, oh my God, my life would have been so different these last 5 years if I'd have known that's what was happening.
So well, as I was saying, it was part. So Warrior, Everything Rosy was first, and then it was Lavender Dreams was the second. We created the Warrior Box, and this is for like a busy brain. So when your brain's really busy and you can't calm down at night time at all, you're like, anxiety is basically off the rocker. So this is why I created Lavender Dreams, is for women who are suffering that badly. It's actually a lot of boys and men drink that as well.
It sounds like a track to go with that would be really good.
I already created one for that. So I'm ready. So this is so that's really good. So basically, what upsets me a lot when women go to the doctors, the doctors automatically try to put them on antidepressant tablets or beta blockers for anxiety and stuff. And I just wish they would go, let's have a look at your food, let's have a look at your sleep.
Agreed.
So Wild Women's really all about is that project to get women to start thinking about themselves at the beginning of their journey.
Is there an education that's coming from this?
Yeah, that's the other plan of it. So I'm in the middle of writing a book called Born Wild. And I'm also in the middle of creating I'm not sure if it's going to be 6 weeks or 8 week coaching program to reconnect with your inner self. So I am a trained NLP coach as well, practitioner. So
it all fits beautifully.
So I was trying to do it. So last year I went on a bit of a journey. Like when people are starting off their businesses, well, the biggest mistake they make is they try to pigeonhole themselves straight away, and they basically don't leave room to organically grow. So a business really sort of needs space to organically grow, and I think as a business, it's like you got a baby. So up for the first like 4 years it's a baby, and then it hits like a toddler stage, then it becomes a teenager, and then it becomes an adult. So a business, when it's an adult, it's when it's been around for like 12 years plus.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, because a lot of people think that you start a business and it should be working after a year. That might happen sometimes for some people, but then they'll find that they'll have problems later on down the line.
The one thing I'm discovering as I speak to more people is it's that saying that I hear quite a lot. People see the overnight success, but not the 10 years that went before.
And there's always 10 years that went before. So it's realizing that it's a lifestyle. It's not it's not,
it becomes part of your life.
Because
it is you.
It's not something that and it changes your business. You should allow room for your business to change as you change and grow as well. Which I think you need to do, like all the practical stuff that you don't like doing, which is accounts and all that side of it, but it's really having and making sure you're the center of it, really. And I think that's a lot of people also like to, they think, well, I've been in the business for 4 years, I'm going to move out and put someone else in, and they do that too quickly too. And that's when it can go wrong as well. They think they can build something and then become, I think that takes a long time for that to happen in a business. So for me it was getting all that. I've learned all those things.
So you've got all the ideas of where this is going.
So now I've got. So last year was about experimenting with my coaching and my meditation. So I ran a lot of meditation classes last year. I did a lot of work, womb coding, little smaller retreats. And I didn't really know why I was doing it. I just knew that I had to do it.
It's funny, isn't it? That's I feel like I could read my tea leaves here. It's funny because I've done a few things in the last few years and through purely gut instinct. But what I'm learning as a woman now, it's actually not gut instinct for me. It's womb instinct. So I hear men say to me, tune into your heart, which I do anyway. But I'm finding that the deeper intuition comes from your womb space.
It's really important, and a lot of women are not connected to their womb. So that's another thing Wild Women's about. It's about,
I can see where this is going.
It's connecting with that and bringing that into the mainstream a little bit. And I think it's sort of bringing women back down to earth again. So sometimes it's not about supplements. It's not about eating. Of course, supplements help. Eating food helps, but it's learning to reconnect yourself
to yourself.
So that's what Wild Women Tea is. It's not just tea. I'm going to start doing tea rituals again. So, you mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago about tea rituals, and I sort of and I think a year before that, Laura mentioned something, and I went, Laura, because it reminded me too much of. And then my friend Amy she's going to be an affiliate for Wild Women. She came over for a tea tasting and she goes, oh, I should do tea rituals.
Well, people can be affiliates,
yeah,
by the way. So if someone's interested in, we'll just mention that maybe.
Yeah,
if they want to, because you do have affiliate links where
yeah, I
people
do.
can
Yeah,
promote you, don't you?
Yeah, so
You want people to be involved. And you and I'm starting a women's circle, and we're
Yeah.
going to do one together, aren't we?
we are. So I'm excited about that.
So you're so right. It's about, I think, for women, and I'm on this journey, it's about us reconnecting to ourselves.
Yeah. So I'm going to start doing
I mean,
tea
it's a
rituals
product,
again.
but it's so much more.
Well, it is so much more, and it tastes good as well.
Yeah.
It does. I'm not just saying
It does
that.
taste good. I'm going to read my tea leaves when it's
But
done.
also, I went off tea rituals because I used to do a lot of tea tastings when we had the tea room.
Yeah.
So I think I used to do up to like 2 or 3 tea tastings a day. So I think so when I first people started, but they were calling it, instead of tea tasting, we were calling it tea ritual. But in my head, it was like tea tasting. Oh, I've done too much of it.
I've been to 2 tea rituals recently.
Yeah, but I'm going to start. So now it feels right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do them because.
Brilliant.
But it took me a while to. That's what I mean. Also about being in alignment with yourself.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't, when you're not in alignment with something, but you should be, you don't hear what other people are saying because you haven't dealt with a blockage.
Yes.
And it could be in your face.
Yes, it was very in your face, exactly.
In there.
So let's wind this up, and I think we'll probably do another one. But I asked 2 questions at the end of each podcast.
Okay.
And I'm like thinking, oh my God, you'll see what I'm pointing at this sign. We've got the topic. It's better if freaking record.
No, it has. I can tell it has.
Yeah. So the 2 questions are, and it's really interesting because recently the first question, I've had quite a lot of people say the same thing. So the first question is, if you could go back to any one of your kind of life experiences in the past, and you could just whisper some words in her ear of encouragement, and you could say anything to her, where would you go and what would you say?
Well, we did this last week, didn't we?
We did. But actually, no, we did that in a process, in a cacao ceremony. Yeah. Where would you go?
I would go back to that little girl in the classroom, which I did.
Yeah.
And I would say, just believe in yourself and trust yourself, and just like, don't let the outer world affect you.
That was really powerful.
It was really powerful. Yeah.
And then we went to your future self, but today we're just and we did that with cacao. Imagine if we could combine the cacao and the tea, Joan.
That would be nice. We're gonna work that one out. I mean, I have been thinking about it actually, because we need it for it to dissolve. That's the only
I know how to do it. We'll be chatting.
Oh,
I'll see you on Friday. And the second question is, given your journey, everything that you've learned, like your wonderful parents and everything, if you could pay anything forward to our viewers, so imagine this is designed for the person, it comes out on a Sunday evening. It's designed to ignite people's dreams and help them believe they can do it. So if you can impart any words of wisdom to anybody who's thinking about doing something, they might be a bit afraid, what would you say?
Just do it. Like, just if there's something that you really want to do, just give it a go. Like, you'll be shocked how much better you feel. Your body will suddenly start to relax. And just don't overthink it, and just make one step. So basically do one thing for your future self every day.
Wow, I love that, because some people might be thinking of a big thing, right? I mean, can you imagine if someone thinks, I want to run a marathon? They've never ran before. And that's all going to have to be like broken down into tiny little bits. So one thing for your future self every day. I'm going to adopt that.
That's what I do. Because then you feel like you can go to bed that night going, right, I've achieved that one thing for my future.
So give me an example of, in your life, what one thing for your future self could be.
So for example, I've had a thing about LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right, for my business. I was like, oh, I can't be bothered with LinkedIn. But I knew that I had to do that for the future of the Wild Women Teas, so for the business. So it's sometimes it's something that you might not actually really do. So I went onto LinkedIn and looked at it properly and like tweaked my profile.
And how did you feel?
I felt amazing.
Yeah.
So another thing is I make sure at the end of the night I recap on the day and just give myself a high five of the things that I have achieved that day. So
I do that.
So I don't look at the stuff I haven't achieved.
Yeah.
I only look at the stuff that I have achieved. And then it's just whatever it is, it could be something small. So if it's someone who wants to do something and they haven't got the guts to do it, why not just do some research into it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Read up on it.
Read
Get
up
a book,
on it.
listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
You can see my thing that I've been putting on.
Yeah.
When that's something.
That's right. Yeah, so it's just doing and make it, and if it feels too overwhelming, that thing, then just break it into even smaller things. So if you want to run a marathon, then just go for a
walk around the block,
you know, and then make that a run and a walk, and then next minute you're running around the block.
I told a story on a recent podcast, or was it on a session with a client? I don't think it was the podcast. I wanted to do this park run, which is a 5K.
I used to do that quite a lot. I love it. Yeah.
So I wanted to do that, and when my kids were little, and it took me ages before I finally got around to it. And then the whole family went, and my kids went. Do you know that park run turned into joining a running club, which turned into running 10K, 5Ks, which turned into 10Ks, which turns into half marathons, which turned into running a marathon, which turned into doing a triathlon.
Oh, wow.
Which turned into having a whole community of friends, which turned into running on a Saturday morning with my friends every Saturday morning and having chats with my friends every Saturday morning, all from a park run.
Yeah. So park run helped me get through my dad's death.
Wow.
Basically. So
it's just like one
thing. So I basically, when he passed away, started doing the park run with my mum, and then a similar thing, my brothers came along, my sons came along, my husband came along, and before we knew it, all of us were doing it differently. Sometimes all of us would be together, sometimes it wouldn't.
And there's coffee afterwards, and then there's the whole thing about where you do park runs. They're all over the place. So it's just that one thing, that a couple of good books are Atomic Habits.
That's a good book.
Compound Effect.
Yeah. And another good book that I'm reading at the moment, which is pretty intense, is, so you know the chimp book.
Yeah.
He's got his new one out, which is The Jungle, Path through the Jungle. And I'm on chapter 3 on that, and that's it's really good. It's made me understand more between your subconscious. So he calls it your monkey brain, your human, and then your computer. So which is quite interesting. So he really goes into more like how to bring them together. That's why I'm so for me, is I've taken some of the stuff that he said, and I've taken it more, and I've turned it into more of a spiritual for me.
Yeah.
And then I've made it into a meditation.
I'll put that in the link as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joney.
That's all
I
right.
really enjoyed having you on my podcast.
So I'll give you a discount link for this, so you can put it underneath.
Thank you. Yay.